Close to Home, a personal look at the opioid epidemic in Iowa.
Somewhere along the line, I ended up with some friends that had meth and opiates and everything under the sun, and seems like one day I woke up and my life was gone, and I had lost my house, I had lost my cars, and I finally decided that that was enough. And thank God I walked into UCS because my fiance's mom had went there for quite a few years, and she had talked about it a lot, and my fiance had been there a couple years before we had met, and so I figured it was worth a try to get my life back on track because I didn't know who I was at the time. I just couldn't handle even thinking that my daughter could live a harder life for her if I continued to use meth while I was pregnant. I didn't want to destroy her life because I couldn't get my stuff together. And then after I had had her, I had been sober that entire time I was pregnant, from meth, and it was my birthday, so she was about a month old. I told Andrew, my fiance, let's go out and have fun tonight because it could be just a weekend thing, and that was completely wrong. We used meth on my birthday, and the next week we barely seen my daughter, our daughter. My mom had her. I remember my mom telling me that she didn't know if we were even going to come back for her, and that was really hard to hear, but thank God I did, because I looked in the mirror and I was like, I cannot do this. And every time I did see our daughter, she would cry every time I'd hold her when I was using because she knew that her mom wasn't right. So I put myself in treatment, and it was a treatment that I could take her with me because I didn't want to be away from her that long and lose out on our bond, because she was still so little. And I took her with me, and I didn't even complete the treatment. I was only there for about a week, but it was just enough for me to know that I was not going to do that to my daughter. I couldn't do it to my family anymore. I couldn't do it to myself, but I knew ultimately that I wanted to give her a better life. Started dabbling in Oxycontin and opiates and things like that because, again, I thought it was better than shooting meth, because I feel like at the time I thought I could live a somewhat normal life. I could take care of my daughter, I could get up and I could function, rather than being on meth. I couldn't function at all. And I think it was about a week of me and Andrew taking pills pretty hard, to where we had said, let's go to the methadone clinic or UCS and try to get something going, because I told him, I said, I think I can see myself just sliding down that horrible hill, Well, I don't feel like if I was just on methadone alone, I would have been able to get to where I am now. The counseling, it helped me. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror because some of the things I had done to not only myself, but to my daughter for, that week or two that I was using. I hated myself, and thank goodness I had a great counselor, because she helped me work through all of that. She helped me realize that I was more than just my addiction. I was a daughter, I was a mother, I was a sister, everything. And the counseling really helped me open my eyes to see that I wasn't necessarily the problem. It was my addiction and my disease, and that really helped, along with the methadone, because that helped me. Before I was on methadone, I would wake up every day and think about using, and I struggled to even get by, whether it be meth or a pill or anything, That's like the first thing I thought of in the morning. It was almost like how people think about eating breakfast. That was my breakfast, It was something that I had to do to even function. Once I started taking my methadone and the cravings going away, I found myself waking up in the morning and thinking about eating breakfast and, getting dressed to go to work, and I was able to function. I had a full-time job. I was a CNA again, which I had loved doing before I had got addicted to drugs, and I could take care of my daughter and just enjoy life. I remember even going for walks with my fiance and my daughter and thinking, wow, this is normal, because we hadn't lived a normal life for so long that you honestly forget how to even do it. Well, with my mom, we had lost our relationship completely. We were always very close, and when I started taking methadone and I was sober, we started doing things together again. You know, we would go on our little mom-daughter dates, and we would take my daughter too, and it was so nice for all of us to be able to be together and to go do those things. And my mom and I are best friends to this day. I mean, there's not a day that goes by that we don't talk to each other multiple times a day. My daughter and I, well, I have 2 daughters now, but my oldest daughter, she's my saving grace, and I think we'll always have a special bond because we went through so much together. And my fiance thankfully found recovery a few years after I did, and it might have took him a while or a little bit longer than me, but I'm so glad he found it, because now we've got another child and we're getting married in a few months, and we are at a place in our lives where I never thought we would be. It does get better. You might not think that you'll ever be able to function or to live or even to grow as an individual, but you can. You can do so much. Even just finding sobriety and finding yourself and the people that you love being in your life after, recovery. It just is amazing to think about. Actually, on May 8th, it'll be 11 years, I think, since I tried committing suicide for the very first time. And even though it's been so long, every time May 8th rolls around, I think about the way I felt that day. I was only 13 or 14. And looking back now, I couldn't imagine how my parents felt. Thinking about my daughters ever even feeling that low breaks my heart. And I hope that they never, ever have to feel that. But looking back now, I just, anytime I see anybody struggling with addiction or depression, people that have tried committing suicide, I always tell them, look at me. I am living proof of, recovery, battling depression, anxiety, everything, and I live a great life.
The very first time I went to treatment was for basically to make other people happy. I wasn't ready to do it for myself because I enjoyed, using per se, but my using escalated basically when I realized there wasn't enough time in the day to get high and go to work. So I just decided that I was gonna not go to work and I was gonna sell drugs and get high every day. Decided that I was gonna go to UCS because my mom was going to UCS and she'd been on methadone treatment for, I think, 12 years by that time, and so she suggested it to me, and so I decided that I was going to give it a try. It worked pretty good until I decided that I was going to detox, and then I started using meth again when I detoxed because I was feeling withdrawal symptoms and stuff like that. But I got through the withdrawal symptoms and I basically switched from the methadone back to meth. Then I stopped using opiates for quite a few years after that, and I was just a meth user. Quit work and just started selling meth every day, and eventually met my daughter's mother, and her and I were using together, and basically about a month after we met, she found out she was pregnant, and she quit using right then and there. After she had our child, I didn't stop using, and ultimately she left me, and then I really went downhill after that, and I started using opiates again. And then after she had our child, her and I used together a couple of times after that, and then she left because she got sober and I didn't, and so I really went downhill after that, and that's basically the first time I hit rock bottom. My mom was going to the methadone clinic, and her and I used together quite a bit. Times where I would go into the bathroom and I would find her face down in the bathroom, and she'd been there for hours, and I'd try and get her to come to, and she'd come to, but she wasn't all there. After I was at the casino all night, I was asleep at my grandma's, and my grandma came in and basically just woke me up and said, "Your mom's dead." I was getting arrested a lot for, theft, possession charges, forgery charges, just a bunch of, stupid stuff. I had those warrants out for my arrest, and I went on the run because I was on probation also. So I ended up going to Des Moines so I wouldn't get arrested before I could go to treatment, and waited until they had a bed, and finally they had a bed, and I ended up going back to Prairie Ridge and completed treatment up there and got put on Suboxone therapy or whatever, and I walked into the Marion County Jail and turned myself in. That was one of the hardest things I ever had to do because I knew that I was either going to prison or I was going to be in there a while. And my Suboxone doctor at Prairie Ridge wrote me a letter of recommendation when I left there to take with me for when I did turn myself in. And I sat in jail for like 25 days and then had court, and they told me that I looked super good and that I was doing super good. And they gave me time served and then let me finish out my probation, and I transferred my probation over to Mahaska County and never looked back. The Suboxone treatment and being at Prairie Ridge, it basically changed things for me because with the naloxone and the Suboxone, I know that I can't use anything while I'm taking the Suboxone. Plus, it kind of cured, not cured, but helped with the cravings for other drugs. And also the fact that I did not want to do to my daughter what I had experienced with my mother, because losing a parent, it really takes a piece of your soul when you lose a parent or a child. And so I knew that I didn't want to do that to my own kid, and I knew that I wanted to be the best parent that I could possibly be alongside my partner. Plus I had excellent people to talk to and to help me through it with my Suboxone doctor and the counselors. And then I had an excellent support system outside of treatment and basically everybody that just wanted to see me succeed. My life now is 100 times better than it was ever using. My worst day now is better than my best day getting high. Everything that I had lost when I was using, I gained it all back just by being sober. It takes a lot of time to gain things back, but it eventually starts coming back. Like I didn't have my license. I got my license back. I didn't have my kids in my life. I got my kids back. I didn't have the person that I loved in my life, and she came back around. My work ethic went out the window when I was using because that's all you care about is using. And I got a job, and that I work hard every day to make the money that I need to provide for my family. With medication-assisted therapy or treatment, you're using that to get your life back on track. And when you are using medication-assisted treatment, you can live your life normally. You're not having to worry about running around where you're going to find your next fix, or if I'm going to be able to find it at that, because you know that you are always going to be able to get up in the morning and go about your day living normally, rather than through all the chaos and stealing to find your next fix, or who you're going to rob or whatever just to find your next fix.